Starship Vigilant, a Star Trek Adventures campaign. Again, so to remind us then, so currently the Vigilance mission was to deliver scientific equipment to Star Cluster RGH 1903, specifically Station Epsilon 9 in the Osaran system. So if you recall, the Osaran system has a star which is collapsing, or was collapsing at an unusual rate, and was also emitting triolic radiation, which is a radiation that is harmful to living organisms and is not something that's used in the technology of any known species for that reason. And so for these reasons, Starfleet have established a base in this system to monitor the collapse of this star and just to see what's going on. So the base is commanded by Commander Eric Johansson. When you arrived at the station, you determined that there was a small Orion trading ship in orbit of the base. Captain Haranok essentially dispatched you lot.
I don't care. That's why I'm putting them out.
To go and press the flesh, because he had a history with Commander Johansson, wasn't a fan. So the Vigilant went off. That's just what we need. Well done, Kev.
Oh God, that's
how did you know?
That's what's causing the problem in engineering.
Yeah, how did you? Yeah, sir. There's a rickety cottage with legs in engineering. I think that might be the problem.
Even the cottage with legs. Yeah.
I think you may find you're actually hallucinating due to triolic radiation. But anyway. Oh no, he's right. There is a.
I'll tell you what will be good down in the galley for the next few weeks. And look at the size of those chicken legs.
Yeah.
Probably a bit woody.
So the Vigilant went off to deposit sensor buoys while you went on board the station. You were invited to a reception by Commander Johansson, where you met the Orion captain, who was a female, whose name I continually forget, is Parja. She was accompanied by a couple of crew members and a couple of Nausicans, if you remember. Mm-hmm. So Kalish took the opportunity, whilst the Orions were all engaged in this social event, to sneak aboard her ship and have a little nose about. And after dinner had concluded, and whilst Kalish was still aboard the ship, there was some sort of energy surge which essentially knocked out power to the station and to the ship. So after you investigated, as you recall, you basically went to the command deck and found out that there'd been essentially the EPS plasma relays had blown out, killed most of the command crew, and the station was in a pretty bad way. So you'd kind of made your way back down from the command deck, heading for engineering. So Prugam Care had gone down to engineering to investigate. And meanwhile, Kalish had been looking on the Orion ship and had discovered this presence of triolic radiation in the engine core, which Prugam also detected in the base's engine core, and this was causing the triolic radiation to have harmful effects much quicker than you would have expected. Again, given the proximity of because the station's reactor core is much bigger, of course, then the problem was more pronounced on the station, whereas for Kalish it wasn't an issue. Kalish managed to set up a communications relay essentially on the ship so that your parties could all talk. And I believe where we got to last time was that you'd got down to the shuttle bay level. If you remember, you'd gone down where the transporters and the shuttlecraft, because what you had discovered was that Commander Johansson had been injured and so needed surgery. Yep. And so your plan was to go to get a gravity sled, like a grav hauler or something from the cargo bay, from the shuttle deck, or take him there and beam him up to sick bay. Or, that was a bit vague, but I think that was essentially the idea, was to get him somewhere. You decided that you needed to operate, or he needed proper medical attention. So Prugam was trying to restore power to the sick bay. You'd found a radiation suit, so
good.
I did check that in my audio, and you found a radiation suit.
And you've been asked for a second one up for
Yeah, for the commander. Yeah.
I was like, I'm coming up.
So obviously Pluto had managed to come up with an inoculation which essentially had reset your stress level. So in other words, it had like wiped out the effects for now. But I think we essentially said you had about 10 hours before the situation would become critical because of loss of power. But and when you were on the transporter / hangar deck level, you'd come across the Orions, who were obviously trying to get out, but Miles had used his knowledge of the Orion code to kind of get her on side, and so she's kind of now thrown her lot in with you. So you've now got a couple of Nausicaans as backup along with her. Does that kind of does everyone feel that?
Have we run into any of the science personnel?
Yeah, so that's right. So on the way back down from the top of the station, because I've got the station plan here.
So I just realised something we should have got them to do.
No, it's all good. We've got time. So essentially, looking on the plan, so the command deck was up here. You've been up there, and that was essentially trashed. Except you've basically made your way down towards. So currently, you're on the shuttle bay levels, which is the central core here. Prugham's down in engineering, which is down here somewhere. On your way down, you'd found the science labs, and you'd found that most of the science personnel were actually were alive. So you'd inoculated, Pluto had inoculated them. Now, I don't think you'd given them any particular they were trying to discover what had caused the issue, basically. That was what they were trying to do.
Oh, we were trying to get
they've noted that obviously the trialic radiation had increased. And sorry, Kevin.
I thought we told them to get the people to safety.
Yeah, I think you did. I think you'd got them to go around and start gathering people together. As I say, they hadn't really made any progress because, of course, their equipment's all blown out, basically. So that, I think, sort of covers it. Has anyone got anything else that I've forgotten? Because I'm happy to admit if I've forgotten something. But
no, I don't think I've forgotten anything.
Well, we did a rather epic thing in the lift, but we can skip that.
Yeah, that's...
the lift.
Dropped the lift. Well, no, you got the lift to work. That was pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah. So what we'll do is as our scene opens, you are in engineering. So engineering on this station is a big impressive space, as you'd imagine. Warp core, typical Starfleet engine room, but obviously much bigger. When you got down there, you found a lot of the crew had actually been. There's not a lot of crew on this station, we determined, because essentially I would say a skeleton crew is maybe a bit harsh, but it's not fully staffed. Now you'd found a couple of surviving engineers to assist you, but these are junior. These are literally first year engineers, but they're
they got suits on.
Yeah,
Right.
because obviously as we know from our Wrath of Khan, all these installations will have radiation suits, so they have. So that's not an immediate problem. So they've got radiation suits on. As I say, unfortunately, some of the other members of the engineering staff were killed. I'm assuming any that were injured have probably been removed from the immediate vicinity of the engine core.
I'd have got them far away from the thing leaking radiation.
But you're basically working with. So you're stabilised. So although you took some stress damage from the trialic radiation, obviously once you got down there, you got yourself into a radiation suit. When Pluto and you meet up, he's obviously got this inoculation which he can give you, but you're safe for now. Safe as you can be with a deadly reactor.
Yeah,
we won't go
safe.
It's fine.
I had a thought, because it was something we didn't actually give, because we didn't really give the science personnel something to do.
Certainly, yeah, you can absolutely. Well, they are basically NPCs, so they're at your disposal.
Well, the one thing would be, while we still have power, what I've realised is, what is the correlation between the tritonic radiation? Trionic? Bionic?
Triolic.
Triolic.
It took me a few goes to get
Triolic. What is the correlation between the triolic radiation that's coming off the sun and that appears to be emanating from the engines?
Right, that's absolutely spot on, and that is exactly
because it's like she's got triolic radiation, we've got trionic radiation, and there's because the main reason why we're here is because we picked up the triolic radiation because we go that's linked to the Davidian that was linked
Davidians.
to
Davidians. They're the only. So the Davidians were a time-travelling species who used triolic radiation, but their biology was very different from normal humanoids. So they're the only species that Starfleet have encountered who use it in their technology, for the exact reason that if humans use it, it causes cellular degradation. So what I think you're looking at here, then, we're probably looking at sort of splitting things up a bit. So as it stands at the moment, Prugam is down here. We'll get you to make a roll in a minute. I want to see if you make some progress towards getting the engines stabilised. So the rest of you, Kalish is actually probably in the best shape of everybody, because as we determined last time, your condition is secure. As I say, the engine core on the ship you're on is contained. And she's actually kind of coordinating a little bit as a communications relay, because the station's internal communications are still fried. Because if you remember, the whole there was essentially a massive feedback loop in the EPS conduits, which blew the bridge panels out. But it also means a lot of these systems are just fried, and they can be repaired, but it's beyond the scope of what one engineer can do. And so your Kalish's role is vital, because you can talk to all parties, can communicate, which is very, very important.
So just to point out, she went on her ship down to engineering.
Yeah, she did. She did. Yeah, she went down to the Orion ship, and that's where she found this issue with the triolics.
And she's there now trying to fix it. So she's currently bugging Prudham Care whilst he's trying to do his own work. She keeps
trying to work. Click on. That's absolutely fine.
And you try to turn it off and on again.
Now, the good thing is actually, obviously Orion ships are they're like Klingon ships. They're pretty simple. They're not really, they don't, you just tend to bash them with a spanner, and it's that sort of thing. Starfleet ships are much more finely balanced machines, whereas
what Starfleet engineering say.
That's what they say. as we know, it's all in the grease.
Exactly.
So, Kev, do you want to then do you want to have David supervise the scientists? Because I
thought we told him.
Well, you'd got them going
it's more
around
like,
gathering.
I'm walking down. We could take it as I'm walking, we're in the thing, and I've just gone, hang on, shouldn't we get them to look at that while we're doing that?
That's a fair point. Yes, we're going to do that.
And as
some of them we're going to give up for the wounded.
That's right. And to be fair, there was about a dozen of them, and some of them are just like lab techs. So you've got the main doctor lady, who's the sort of big brain, and she's probably got 3 or 4 of her subordinates. So
we can activate holodocs.
But they're not without power. So yes, you can. So again, if you can get, your immediate problem is that your Hansen is pretty badly injured. So if you remember, you also found his adjutant, but he was okay. You just left him. Plume sort of gave him a dose of the stuff, left him sleeping in a he was knocked out, but he was okay.
In the recovery position.
Exactly, essentially.
You called that.
So you'd gone to the shuttle, you'd gone to the transport core, shuttle bay, transport bays or whatever, to try and get find a way of getting him back to sick bay.
Yeah.
So there's a few things going on here. So Prudham is working on getting power back to a sick bay, because obviously if there are other injured people around the station. So again, at some point they're going to presumably get to sick bay. And as Kevin says, the base does have a holodoc. So if you can get the Prugam can get the power back on, then that means the holo doctor, the EMH can kick in, which will take a bit of the pressure off you. And then you guys are coordinating that. And as I say, there's also the issue of what's actually causing the problem. So that's something which, again, the science people probably need to get in on, as well as Prugam. But Prugam's got more urgent matters to deal with.
Then we need to get power on, and then shield engineering, and then
once things stabilise, we can work out.
Have we made any progress on contacting the Vigilant?
Essentially, long-range communications are just fried. And again, given the so obviously with the unusual behaviour of the star, the communications are spotty at best anyway, and of course normally the base has got enough power to punch through. I mean obviously, and again, knowing Starfleet protocols, as soon as the Vigilant may have also suffered issues, which
we're worried about.
You don't know that, but you can assume that if you've had issues, the Vigilant may have had similar issues. Secondly, once they don't have communication with you, you would assume that they will come back, because obviously if you lose communication, protocol is to try and retrieve your landing party. So they'll be back at some point. And so best thing you can do is I guess carry on until they return, which will no doubt be at a plot appropriate moment.
Just as we fixed it.
I'm just saying
that, guys.
So is there anything? So let's go with Prugam first. Let's. So what I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to get you to make I reckon probably insight engineering.
Okay.
So what this is first of all for you to be able to route power to the sick bay systems as a priority. That's the first job you've been asked to do.
Would any of my focuses?
So what have you got?
Warp field dynamics, jury rigging, transport.
Definitely jury rigging.
Cool. I love that focus. It's the one that keeps on giving.
It's great. No, but it is, and as an engineer, it's perfect.
What's my difficulty?
It's going to be a difficulty of 3.
Okay. Do we have any momentum, or is it 2?
What we'll do is let's give everyone a point of determination.
I might want some of that to not blow up the ship.
You can certainly buy some thread, Kevin.
No, I'm pretty sure we had momentum. We were 4.
Yeah, but we just reset it every session. They don't really carry it over.
So this is to determine the source of the problem, right?
That's terrible.
I think
This
it's terrible
is to
too.
determine the source of the problem, why everything's lost power.
Right.
This is first of all for you. No, this is first of all. This is for you to essentially get power to sickbay as the first priority.
Okay.
If you create a supporting character, they can help you out.
Yep, that's a good.
Where are the 2 surviving engineers?
No, that's fine. You can do that. So why don't we do that?
Seeing that my engineering is 2 versus medicine 2 and science 1. I mean, they're useless to help.
You can assist. Yeah, you can assist him.
I'm going to head downstairs. I mean, it might take me a little while to get there, but at least I can come.
I'll get Tweedledee and Tweedledum to help.
Tweedledee.
They've probably given me their names, but like their ensigns. They probably when I came in, they're probably running around screaming. I'm guessing.
It's a Tyrillian version of the Alice in Wonderland. All cultures have their own interpretation, their own version of Alice in Wonderland.
Beavis and Butthead.
Been around humans for a while.
Pops and clicks.
Yeah.
Speak big ass thing.
Okay, so you can Well, I'll tell you what then. Let's. I'm going to wing it a little bit because I've got the handout here somewhere, but I can't be bothered to spend 20 minutes looking for it. So we're going to wing it slightly. So what we're going to have is you can have a supporting character. The base has a supporting character pool anyway, as do all. So as you know, it's down to size. Now I think the base size is 5, which means you've got plenty of pools to go with. So why don't you give me a name for one of your
Jenkins.
Okay. So we're going to have Ensign Jenkins.
Not Brown Jenkins.
No, that could be awkward.
It's Jensen, sir.
Jenkins.
It's Jenkins.
It's Jenkins now.
Okay, so I'm going to give him. He's going to have.
Shut up, Jenkins. Get out again. Yes, sir.
He's going to have an insight of. He's going to have an insight of 9, and he's going to have an engineering of 3.
Okay.
So he's a supporting character who you've now brought to life.
Yes.
And he's essentially yours to do with as you see fit. So if you need to send him into the reactor core, he's fine with that.
So I'll have him checking readings while I'm modulating things.
So what do you want to get him to assist you with this task?
Yes.
Okay, so that's fine. So does somebody want to roll for him? For Jennings, Jenkins, sir. So his target is 12.
What's his dice?
You get 1d20. He's got 9 and 3. So he's got a 9 and a 3. So you need a 12 or less.
Right.
Oh shit!
Or complication. Okay, no, that's
but
good.
That's 2 successes.
So that's 2 successes.
But also
plus a con. Right.
Jensen rolled 19.
over there.
What did he roll?
He rolled 19.
Oh, he's useless.
how did you pass the academy? Oh, just stand in the corner.
Okay.
It's round, sir. Stand in the corner.
Okay. So that's going to cause a complication that I'm not going to tell you about for the moment.
Great.
We'll come back to that.
Yes, there's a hole in my
Smith.
Okay. So with 2 successes, essentially, what happens is you opened up the old airing cupboards, Geordie's airing cupboards. You're like rerouting.
Stash.
Yeah.
Jenkins is sitting there.
He's now Borg.
Fiddling around with this panel, trying to make circuit diagrams as they're trying to make new power pathways. And you nearly have it. You think yes, and then it kind of surges, and there's again the reactor core spikes, and it kind of blows a load of relays out. You're like, oh crap! You have to start again, pulling things out.
Series of.
So it takes you about. It's going to take you 30 minutes. It's an increment of 30 minutes, so you've got to reboot everything. So,
is that a CPU sticking in your forehead?
So what I'm going to do, so we can try again. You'll try again in a minute, and I'm going to give you a little bit of help there because you've done the initial work, so you kind of know what you're doing. Yeah. But because this thing is just, the power is just so erratic, it's just going to blow some relays. So you're kind of pulling bits out of other components and rerouting
it. Paper clip in
you're happy as frankly you're happy as a Tellurite in shit because you've got your sleeves rolled up, you're sweating, you've got grease all over you. You're loving it. It's great. Jenkins is looking at you slightly oddly as you seem like a thing possessed. Just like,
he slowly zips up his top. Yeah. You see a flash of red.
Right. So. Kalish, is there anything Kalish would like to do at the moment other than just monitor? It's quite, as I say, she's kind of sitting pretty at the moment.
She's still trying to get in contact with the Vigilant. So she's sending.
Why don't you get her to? Okay, I'm going to get you to make a. Let me think. I reckon reason with engineering. Difficulty is 3. So again, you might only succeed. You can buy some momentum if you want to give me some threat, or you can just roll it. And if you might just luck out with the focus. Because what you're trying to do is again. Kalish is not the most. I mean, she's battlefield technical, if you know what I mean. So she's good at stuff on the fly. So she's actually quite good at sorting problems out, but she's not really an engineer, so she's trying to frig it basically.
I can kind of see her standing there going, kind of kicking the thing. Why won't you work?
Exactly.
How good are these scanners on the Orion ship?
Yeah, they're workmanlike. It's fair to say. They're good enough to stop you running into something. They're not really designed for science.
Is it possible for them to determine whether there's been solar flare from the sun recently?
I would imagine it would certainly be in the log. So Kalish would probably retrieve, because obviously the prior to the system spike, it's got a data core, so it probably would have recorded.
Okay. Take 3 threat. I'd like to buy 2 dice.
Go for it. Yeah.
Right.
I don't mind.
Go for it.
If you want to take the chance.
Roll it.
Probably should have given them threat before.
Your threat, not party threat.
I'm just building a little pile.
Just remember, you're on a different ship.
I'm just building a little pile.
If I've given him threat,
Kalish is her own party.
4 successes.
Awesome. So you get a point of momentum.
Beautiful.
Okay. So.
Well, that goes to the party.
Yeah.
Kalish. So she's basically essentially dismantled the operations panel, and is cursing Orion technology, which is mostly cobbled together bollocks from other less technically advanced civilizations. But she manages to again, she's learnt a lot on this little unauthorized away mission in the stuff she's been doing. So, and she's got to know this ship, because again, the good thing about Orion technology is it is pretty basic. So she's managed to route together. She's managed to basically bump up the antenna, the subspace antenna, and sure enough, you get it's like Vigilant. This is Vigilant. Come in, and although it's heavy with static, you can hear one of the operations officers on the Vigilant is hailing the away team, and you manage to intercept the signal. So, what would you like to do?
Okay.
I remember the Nostromo.
Yeah, this is
sorry.
civilian transport Nostromo.
Whose voice was it today?
It was. Oh, you're going to put me on the spot now, aren't you? It was. Give me 1 second.
Jenkins.
It's Ensign Kadai, who's he's one of the he's basically a helm con officer.
Is he that guy we ended up bringing with us to?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's Ensign Kadai. So
I'm not him again.
He's coming off.
He's got his sunglasses on.
Sorry, so it was the wrong number. What?
Rather than draw it all out, I'm just going to give our status, and I'm going to ask their status.
Right, so although the communication is spotty, but you are able to relay most of the information. Captain Haranok comes on the channel, sort of. So obviously, Kadai has picked up your transport. Well, they've been hailing the away team basically, and so he comes on and once he establishes contact, you can hear him. So I've got Sergeant Kalish. And Hranok comes on and says, what's your situation? So you report, essentially give him the high points. And he says, so he reports back that the Vigilant has also suffered engineering problems, although they were actually on a wider elliptical orbit. Mm-hmm. So actually, although they've had some power issues, the warp drive's been knocked out, but they are heading back on impulse and repairs are underway. There's no casualties. So it's more of an inconvenience, but obviously, as soon as they realised they had lost communication, they set back. So they're going to be several hours before, but they should be back within the 10-hour.
Then I'll ask them to prep their sick bays and.
Okay. Well, it's more like a sick cupboard, really.
First aid box.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, can you get the first aid? Can you get the
wounded that will need transporting out?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Doctor.
No, that's fine. So he says, He says, what, are you, okay, we're on the way. And estimated arrival in 8.5 hours or something, because again they're chugging away at impulse at the moment, and given the proximity to the star and also the situation, they probably wouldn't risk the warp drive anyway in the system. It's funny that, isn't it? That's one of those rules that kind of comes and goes, because they always used to say that you couldn't engage warp drive in a system because of the so in Star Trek the Motion Picture they don't go to warp until they clear the system. But then later, next generation, they sort of drop into orbit and all that kind of shit. So basically, they're just, although the warp drive is knocked out temporarily, they're going to not risk it just because of the way the star's behaving. So they're making best speed back. And he says, they'll get everything prepared. They'll, put your team on standby. So that's good. So you can relay that to, presumably you'll relay that to Naismith and to the others.
Yep.
So you guys know that things are proceeding. So.
Kalish, could you check the log to see if there's been a large coronal mass ejection from the sun?
To start panicking.
To be fair, you don't need to make a roll for that, because you're in the computer system, so it'd probably take you 20 minutes to figure it. I mean, again, you're not a scientist, but with Osterhagen sort of telling you what to look for, you can even probably relay the data to his tricorder.
If there was no one on the ship surely would have been in more of a standby mode, so it wouldn't have really been recording stuff like that. But could I not set up something? So
you can certainly initiate. Again, the scans are the scanners are functioning at, but again, as we said, they're not really designed for scientific observation, but they certainly, the navigational sensors basically.
Yeah.
So you can certainly, again, if you want to spend a bit of time, and that might be a useful thing for Kalish to do to keep her busy while other things are happening. Yeah. So David can sort of, I'm going to send you, schematics, and essentially you can set up a routine. Yeah, you have to write some code.
What's the line ship? I'll send an Excel spreadsheet now.
I'll send a carrier pigeon by return. Right. So. That's good. So, do you want to then get the scientists investigating what's going on?
Have they got enough power to be able to do that?
Well, that's why your ship had more power.
Precisely.
To determine whether there's a corona.
Again, you can probably coordinate. Yeah. So once you get your let's do that then. So once you get the Kalish.
So once I get data, I guess I could send it to them and they can.
Yeah. Kalish spends about an hour or half an hour initiating. So David is getting probably getting increasingly frustrated.
Orions over there. Any female Orions? No. Let's corona mass ejections. What you need to do, I don't have is and explain in detail how one. Click here, click there, swipe your hand left. Where it says press. Don't press that.
Swipe here.
Where it says press. I press that. Don't press that.
Right, you need to press F5. You need to do that.
Yes.
Don't press delete.
Refresh that. Refresh that.
Why
That's
not?
what I do.
Right, I am going. Yeah, so after about half an hour or so of you getting increasingly frustrated,
I'm not sure we have made it downstairs into engineer, but I found a suit.
That's exactly right. So we'll come back to the science bit in a minute.
Place. Give him your seat.
So down in main engineering, right? So would you like to have another go at getting
please.
What have I missed?
Yeah, may I use the momentum so I can get the ship?
Go for it, yeah.
Cool. because I get cautious. I get every roll.
It's
our momentum. Yeah.
You're
Oh Jesus Christ!
Oh
Good thing I
my.
can re-roll it. That's better. So 1, 2, 3, 4 successes this time.
Do you want
Excellent
Jensen,
work.
do you want Jensen to add?
No, he's helped enough.
Well, no, hang on. You might as well get to roll because it adds momentum to the pool, so you might need that.
Jensen, you just shot me. I was not paying attention.
What do you get?
Not enough.
Okay.
Not a 20. Not a 20. I showed up and goes, can I help?
It's floppy gloves.
So yeah, you can take him outside.
I tell you what, his work assessment is not looking good at the moment,
No,
is it?
It's a good. Well,
This might be the first time he's caught in something like involving He's just been caught in an explosion.
Yeah.
That can rattle anyone's brains.
I mean, he also could
It's
be
a
doing.
Starfleet.
He also could be doing it on purpose because nobody can remember his damn name.
There is that, yeah. If you'd only called me Jennings, I would have got it right.
You going, that Jenkins, he's terrible, he's like thing, and everybody's going, yes, Jenkins is terrible. They're like, who the fuck is Jenkins?
Jenkins,
They're like,
doesn't ring any
get a
bells.
report, I'm putting him in report, and we're like, who's Jenkins? We don't have a
There's a
Jenkins.
little problem with that. We've got a Jenkins on the crew. Infiltrator.
there's a Jameson. That's the closest it gets.
Fine, excellent work. Right, so
Yeah.
so okay, so you can now report to Plume. He's now got power to sick bay.
Doc, you're
So
welcome.
he's now rooted. So what you've done is you've basically you've prioritised siphoning off the power that you can manage from the core to essentially to life support systems and by extension sick bay systems. So if you can get to the you can now get to sick bay, you can actually get the EMH up and running.
Lovely.
And that
Before he
means
knows, he goes to the replicator and he gets a black copy.
yeah.
And then he activates his image.
I'm surprised he's not
So-
gonna
Oh, was I
use
supposed to put power to the replicators?
I think we'll allow that. I think the coffee machine's fine.
Yeah.
Essential equipment.
Oh, yeah, it's essential. Certainly, absolutely. I'm not being funny. You probably had 15 cups by now. Anyway, that was the first thing you got. Right? Was like, get the replicators for Ractogeno.
No, I've got my own like portable replicator in my engineering kit. It's just a
Ractogeno, 15 sugars.
It's only got one
setting
on
on
it. Coffee.
Yeah, coffee.
A thermos that just keeps filling.
Yeah, that's why we call it a thermos in the 20th century. It's
I'm
fine.
pretty sure in one of the novels, there's the whole thing, in one of the Star Trek novels, this is a geek out, there's a whole thing about Geordi going on about the fact that making bad coffee is like, getting the biggest problem for engineers is getting the machine to get the replicator to do bad coffee. That's like, that can keep them up awake at night.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. I can't remember which one that's in. It's one of the early ones, isn't it? Fine. So you can now go to sick bay. So it takes you again. Now that you know where you're going, and again, given that the turbo lifts are still not functioning, but you can use the access ladders. So are you going to take what you could do actually? Maybe you take one of the suckers. So you've kind of appropriated the lab technicians.
Yep.
So I'm going to say there's the chief doctor and she's got 3 associates who are going to be helping Kevin out with the science stuff. So that gives you, there's like 6 lab techs who, I mean, although they're technicians, but they've been you can use them as grunts. And you've also got the Nausicans as well.
Yep.
So I would assume you probably sent out people looking for casualties. You've taken Commander Johansson with the help of one of these guys to sick bay. Mm-hmm. So it takes you 10 minutes to get there.
Oh, so what was the difficulty on this roll?
That was A3, wasn't it?
Okay,
so you've got
okay.
a point of momentum as well, yeah. And so you get to you get to sick bay, and the sick bay systems are on. So you essentially the lights are on, the monitors are buzzing away. So you can get a coffee. Obviously, you put the with the help of the technician, you get the commander onto one of the bio beds, and you can activate. So you computer activate the EMH, and this balding, middle-aged balding man appears in the middle of sick bay. Now you've probably seen EMHs before. Mm-hmm. I know this is early in there,
I attended,
but again, given Plume's seniority, you've probably been to a conference where they prepare, so you kind of know vaguely what the deal is. Yeah. You may not have actually seen one in the flesh, but you know that. So please state the nature of the medical emergency.
He'd been to the went to the presentation conference. Yes. This is our new computer operated voice controlled EMH. Is it computer control? Alt delete.
You probably got a pen and a notebook or something from the conference, just like. So this guy appears and he's wearing a crisp appears to be a humanoid wearing a crisp Starfleet medical uniform, and he looks around, slightly puzzled, and says, "Oh, you're not our chief medical officer. How may I help you?"
No, we've had a radiation leak. We've got some personnel here who need some unconscious, and they need treating radiation burn.
Very well. So he walks straight over to the bio bed that Johansson's on. So Johansson had, as well as having radiation problems, he's also had he had like crushing injuries, didn't he? From the and he literally goes straight into business mode. So this is how the EMH should function. In other words, I'll get to work immediately, and he goes straight over to the bio bed. He's like, scanning him and goes to work, and you can let him get on. So is there anything else you want to task him to do other than? Are you going to hang around in sickbay while more people come in? Because within a few minutes, other casualties start drifting.
Because I think he wants to make sure the EMH is doing. Yeah. I know in theory he's supposed to be able to do it, so
absolutely
he's just making sure that before he walks away.
Yeah, not at all a problem. So you supervise him, and the EMH doesn't give any sign of being annoyed by this, because again, this is the EMH behaving as he's meant to behave, i.e. it's an advanced computer program.
And I think Plume would probably talk to him like he was machinery rather than. So he'd give him just sort of commands, and if the EMH asked him questions, he probably wouldn't necessarily.
So I mean, the only reason, again, and Voyager's not my strong point, but I believe the EMH, was different because it was in constant use almost. Yeah. So the notion of the EMH is it's meant to be there as a backup, and as if it functions as programmed, it essentially is behaves like an emotionless. I mean, it has some programmed bedside manner. Yep. But essentially, it's a tool. So you just say, exactly. So he functions very efficiently, and you just supervise, and he doesn't have a problem with that. There's no snippiness. It's just literally, yes, indeed, I will get on with that. And he's so the computer recognises your obviously can identify you through your bio signs, and so it begins to addresses you as Dr. Plume because it's retrieved from Starfleet records, your rank and seniority and all that. So you have no problem. Purrs like a kitten. You can assume that it will be able to carry out any medical functions without any particular problem. It's chugs away, and you can just let it get on with it. Obviously, as more people come in, now again, there's not masses of people, but within about half an hour, you've got probably 5 or 6 cases. And again, the Norsicans have brought in a couple of injured crewmen. In fact, they bring in one of their own as well. One of the Orion crew has been injured, because remember there was 2 or 3 sort of lowly cargo handlers who were part of the crew of that ship. So they also bring one of theirs in. So anything you do to assist him will also go some way to sort of reinforcing the good relations with the Orion female. There's no sign of her. She's still with Naismith at the moment. So these guys.
Eventually, Jenkins comes in with coffee burns because he got in my way.
He's just. I would give you a talking to if you did that. It's like, you can't do that.
He's got a nice bump in the back of his head.
Wait a minute, this is coffee burns.
So great. So you've got that under control, and the EMH is behaving as programmed. Okay, so what are you two guys going to do?
Well, can I take one of your orderlies and we'll go and do sort of like because I've got first aid.
Yeah, well you've got. So the
idea is if I take one of these orderlies or one of these.
Well, basically these are science techs, but absolutely.
If I take one of those, we'll start going around and doing a search for any other crew members and stuff.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So you go off and start. Again, luckily there isn't a lot of crew. And you find a couple of. So again, I'm just going to skip over it because you find a couple of casualties. Yeah. So there's a couple of dead. Unfortunately, they were hit by blowing by EPS conduits blowing out. But then you find a couple of walking wounded, and again, as things move on. So meanwhile, Prugam is beginning to. You're still restoring more systems. So again, slowly but surely, the life support is shoring up. But there is still the issue. So
does it look like the traumatic radiation is emanating from the warp core?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So is it possible then to...
get some scientists down here to scan it.
Yeah, I probably want to think about something in my head while I'm doing other stuff of how to shield it so it's not leaking radiation.
What's that?
Can we get the cargo bay doors?
How? Yes, you can.
What do you think, Dave?
I'm sorry you can't do that, David.
Why do you want to open that? I'm afraid I can't let you do that, David.
I'm going to take a shuttle out and observe the outside of the ship to see if it's been...
Yeah, the only problem is the shuttles are fried, so the shuttles aren't going to fly. Their power systems
that had been established, that was established.
Should I send Jenkins to try and fix the shuttles? keep him out of trouble.
Sorry.
You could.
Is there a shuttle on the Orion?
No.
Yeah.
Can you move the Orion? Is it?
No, we couldn't move it.
No, because again, although its engines are basically shut down, because Kalish had to put them into sort of a shutdown mode to keep the situation under control, but they're not, so it's not harmful.
Are you in a synchronous orbit, or is the Starship moving?
I'm going to say it's in a synchronous orbit, because we don't really want it to crash into the station. That would be awkward. It's not really. It's not an Irwin Allen disaster.
It's just we don't need the 10 hour. The 10 hour time limit isn't the problem.
You've now got about you've got about 8 hours now.
Yeah, it's the 45 minutes before we crash into the. No, I just want to have it that we'll probably need some science personnel here scanning the.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to get you to do is what I want you to do is
I want to be notified.
I want
as
you
soon as
to
something
carry out
comes
an
up.
extended task here to try and determine what's going on with the trial radiation. So we'll skip to that. So program is you've now got Jennings and you've got the other guy. They're beginning to assist you a bit more.
Yeah, I've got them doing the easy jobs, like.
And
Is there anything I can do?
you're working, but you've spoken to us. Basically, you need to understand what's going on with this trial at radiation. So although you can deal with the symptoms and you're beginning to restore, the fundamental problem is still there. Plume is in sick bay. You're managing the situation as expected. Again, the EMH he's certainly good at dealing with the minor things. You can deal with anything more complicated. You guys are out searching for wounded. Again, over the course of the next hour, you bring a couple of people in. Again, good news is you don't find any major structural issues with the station.
Is the computer up and running?
No. It's running in a basic. So it's managing basic systems, but it's not functioning.
So there's no records.
Higher functions.
So we're not able to get hold of any records about.
Not at the moment. No. I mean, again, it'll probably take a full system reboot to get that back up.
Okay.
But you probably don't want to risk that whilst you're in this
situation. It's just I wondered if because again we could just sort of like do a census sort of right. Okay.
I mean, you have got tricorders and so on. And obviously, the scientists have now. So the science person. So you guys have gone back to the lab.
Yeah. So someone drained.
You guys have gone back to the Oh yeah, I forgot about that. You guys have gone back to the lab, and so Kalish has now managed to get a makeshift sensor net set up, and you've got like a real-time relay between the Orion ship and the science lab. Basically, what the scientists have done is they've got their own dedicated processors which they've brought back up, so it's not affected by the issues that Prugham's having. And you've managed to set up a solid data link. I mean, it's not very quick, but it's functional.
Can they pick up at any of the probes that the Vigilant have dropped?
You can make it. Why don't you let's make a roll for it? So why don't you let's let David do that? So you're going to function as the science chief. So what have you got?
I have one success.
Unless you've got a focus. Actually,
No, that's fine.
That's one hell of a
All you need was one success. So because you obviously know. Because you assisted in programming the sensor drones on the way here, so you're able to tap into that, so you can actually use them to enhance your results. So I'm going to give you a create advantage, which we're going to call SensorNet, and what that means is you can actually tie in. So you've got this really interesting jury rig thing going on. So you've got the satellites that the Vigilant. So the Vigilant hasn't deployed all of them. So you've got probably 75% of the coverage you would have had if they'd fully been deployed. But because Kalish has now managed to tie in the sensor net from the Orion with the frequencies you've given her, she's been able to tie into those satellites, which can then relay back. So they've got the processors on the station doing the data crunching. You're pulling the data in from the satellites via the Orion ship. Mental note, you might want to purge the data banks before you leave the ship.
Yep.
And so actually, with all this, having about an hour's work, you've actually got a pretty good setup. Program has managed to get you enough, as keeping the power going.
Yeah.
And so actually, in the science lab, you've now got information in front of you. So Miles can also assist with this as well. So is there anything in particular you want to do, Miles, or do you want to just help them out? Because all help, because this is really the key thing, is now trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, other than the fact that other than the fact that I have the investigation focus, I don't really have anything that's applicable. I mean, my science score is the worst, and my engineering is not. Is
What
slightly
have
better.
you got? What talents have you got?
Spirit of discovery, advisor, quick to action, pack tactics.
Okay, advisor.
It's got improvised dance.
Yeah.
No.
You can explain the situation through the medium of dance. I think actually advisor. Mike, have you got Kevin?
Yeah.
Can you look up the talent advisor? Because I think advisor is like a supervisor, which might actually help because it allows you to coordinate.
Yep, I'm quite happy for that.
So that
Just
sounds good to
basically
me.
have
And if
it-
not, I'm going to make something up.
136.
Because it seems good.
Well, the point is, you're as a command. You're a command officer, so you're good at coordinating people.
Yeah, well, it's kind of thing. You do that.
Because
you
David will
figure
have
it out.
his head in the figures.
Well,
I don't want to tell people
Yeah.
what to do. I'm just saying,
unlike
can we do it?
supervisor, advisor is whenever you assist another character using your command discipline, the character is being assisted may re-roll 1d20.
There we go, perfect. So that's great. So you can do that.
Okay.
Right, here you go. So we're going to do this extended task. And I've got my handy little crib sheet here just because, I like crib sheets. So this has got so it's a timed extended task with a progress of 10, a magnitude of 4 and a resistance soak of 4 and a difficulty of 4. Each task has an increment of 30 minutes. So what you need to do basically is we need to make a task roll. And don't forget you can...
I will use testing of theory because I get to re-roll 1 additional d20.
What's the theory?
The theory is that the coronal mass ejection which is causing the problem which affected the warp core.
Okay, that's the theory. We can certainly test that. Okay, so blah 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 blah.
I'm guessing you want my warp field expertise helping.
No, I'm good.
You sure? Okay. just offering. Fine.
I've got the talent arrogance.
Yeah, the problem with that is you've got a finger on a specific point that if you take your finger off, you have to get Jenkins to put his finger on.
No. You're looking for a job, right? Commander, can you just put your finger here, please?
I'm going to want to flit around and advise people.
Jenkins, I need your finger. Oh, but sir.
With the rest of you.
Okay, so do you want to make up? So let's have the first go then. So what you want to use? I guess probably insight plus science. And I'm assuming you're going to get one of the scientists to assist you. So somebody want to roll for the
How many
scientist?
scientists are there that are
There's
available?
3. There's 4 in total.
Actually,
But I think you can only have one
assist.
Only one
Yeah.
assist.
I'm not going to use in testing theory. I'm going to use in a nick of time because
Okay, that's good. That works for
that
me.
works for extended tasks. Whenever you succeed in an engineering or science task, as part of an extended task, you score 1 additional work for every effective.
Excellent. So right, who wants to roll? I want somebody to roll for Linana Mosa, who's the scientist. So she's got an insight of 9.
Yeah, I'll do.
Insight of 9, science of 4. So her
13.
13 is her target. Okay.
So it's just
you roll
assistant,
1d20. So Kevin rolls first.
4 and 11. What side I'm doing? Reason and
So that's
science.
3 successes, and because you've got a focus. Have you got a focus that you must have? I'm sure you must have a science focus that's applicable.
Xenology, genetics, infectious diseases, virology, philosophy, and hand-to-hand combat. So no.
You can think about the philosophy of why this is happening.
Okay, so
Why not help?
that's 2 successes.
Be the corona mass
Are you
ejection.
sure?
Kevin,
So
Mike, you
yeah,
need to
2
roll.
successes. Sorry.
No.
Try and get it in the bloody works at this time.
I'm under the
Should we
science.
try that? No.
Don't I get 2 from under the science?
What's that?
But you don't have a focus.
Oh wait, can I?
Hold on a minute. Don't forget your difficulty. I'm reducing by 1 because of the sensor net advantage. So you got 2 successes.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want to spend a point of momentum to re-roll? Because I think you probably should.
Yeah.
So try and roll under fucking 13.
Hey.
Excellent work.
Could
Okay.
you argue that she has a focus in
No,
something?
she has. She doesn't actually have focuses, but I think with an MP. No, she does. Yeah, astrophysics, perfect. 2 successes. 2 successes. That means you get 1 point of momentum, which we'll keep there. Now
That's
you
why
can
we
spend that
did mention it.
momentum if you want to. So what's the resistance for this? Right. So for each. Right, you need to roll 2 challenge dice, plus an additional challenge dice equal to the discipline that you use. So your science discipline must be 5, is it? 4.
4.
So you need to roll 6 challenge dice.
Okay.
And the total that you roll is the amount of work that you do.
+1.
Plus 1. Now, what was your talent gets you to re-roll a d20 as well, doesn't it? So we need to bear that in mind.
So that's shit. So that's 4.
Is that a spend a point of determination for the?
You can do if you want to. Hold
No,
on,
no, we
hold on. Just hold on to that for a
So
minute.
you get an additional 1 work for each effect roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's 6.
6.
Great. So you got a total of 6 work. Did you get any? Okay, that's good. Give me 1 second. Great.
Bowing resistance was 4, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So only
I'll spend the momentum to re-roll these 3.
What you can do is you can spend momentum also to ignore up to 2 resistance for each one. So if you want to spend a point of momentum, you immediately knock off, because the resistance is 4. So you got 6, did you say, was your total?
Yeah.
So technically you only get 2 work, but if you spend a point of momentum, that basically ignores 2 of that resistance, which gives you a work of 4. Or you can just re-roll the dice if you want to do that. It's up to you.
Resistance of how many?
4.
Oh wow.
Just take, I'd say take the resistance.
But at least if you spend the point of momentum, that means then that you automatically just ignore that.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's your total 4. Right, okay, great.
But spending that point of momentum is only giving you 2 more work. Every work you roll on these.
Yeah.
So you're gambling to either get more
Yeah.
We'll
than
do
2
both.
work.
We've got 2 momentum. Fuck it. We'll do both.
That's exactly the right decision to make.
Ooh.
If only you'd actually rolled any.
no, I can still 2 more. So
True, that's 2 more.
so we got 6.
6, excellent. Okay, 6, right, good. Okay, cool. Right, so
Six.
that takes 30 minutes of
Yeah,
analysis.
but minus 2.
Yeah.
30 minutes of analysis. Right, let's go again. This time, Sean, remember, we'll get you to re-roll, because you can re-roll a d20 because Sean is assisting, advising. So, and Mike, you can roll for the scientist again.
Yeah, re-roll that one.
Yeah,
that one.
I've got it.
Yeah, re-roll that one.
If I can get the target, there we go.
A couple of 17s.
So 3. So 1 success.
Okay, fine. So you want to roll challenge. You want to roll 5 challenge dice.
Oh, nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Great. So you
No
ignore
effects.
4. So
So 3
resistance is 4. So you get a total of 3. Great. So that takes you up to 9.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right. 1 hour has passed, and let's have one more go. Should do it, I think.
Yes. 2 successes.
Brilliant. And Mike, come on.
1.
So it's
Great. 4 successes.
So yeah.
That's perfect. So then you get another one of those. You get so you need to roll challenge dice, 2 challenge dice plus 4 for your discipline. So 6 challenge dice in total.
1, 2.
Nice.
Because you get 2 by automatically for. Actually, hang on a minute. Wait a sec.
So- so-
Wait a
so-
sec. Wait a sec. Wait a sec.
You got 4
No, but
successes.
you're right.
-4, so it's 4.
Yeah. So you need to roll another couple of challenge dice as well. Sorry, my bad. So just give me the end result. Yeah.
After the deduction, yeah?
Yeah.
Which is 7.
Excellent. You smashed it then. Great. Right, here we go. So, taking you at 90 minutes of work. Due to the problems that Prugam had with the engineering earlier, when you've routed the...
His name is Jenkins.
Yeah, Jenkins, whatever his name is.
Jenkins,
Can we transfer Jenkins to the
as you've routed power to sick bay, you've managed to. There was a missed. You missed a power shuttle between the pair of you. You missed a power shunt, so the sensor net drops in the science lab, but not before you've managed to determine what's going on. So it just means then that you lose contact with the sensors, just because essentially you've drawn so much power.
Jenkins!
So Jenkins can get it back up again, but the point is you've managed to get what you need for now. It just means you can't make any additional scans to back up the results. But what you've determined is that there are points on the surface of the star where superheated gas are vanishing, and these are the areas where triolic radiation is being emitted from. And what you determine is that there are actually entities on the surface of the sun, some of which are many kilometres in diameter. So these entities are slightly out of phase with most normal life forms, which means they're very difficult to detect. So because of the enhanced sensor power from the sensor net, you've actually managed to pin down this variance. You spot the glitch, and you realise that these areas on the surface of the star where the triolic radiation is emitting from is actually some form of some type of life form. And as your scans continued, you determined that there are actually hundreds of these life forms, and maybe even thousands, which are basically transferring, or they're essentially consuming energy from the star and emitting it as triolic radiation. This is what's causing the star to decay more quickly than normal. Something about this process is creating the triolic waves. Now, what you also determine...
You figured it out as well.
So what do you want? Well, tell me what you want to say before I...
Well, it basically means that they're all over.
Then there's life forms in the engine section.
So what you think, testing with your analysis, is that you think that these life forms are actually spawning, and that what happens is they essentially create smaller versions of themselves, but it appears, and these small entities are approximately about 1 metre in diameter. But what you've noticed is as these young are basically emitted from the star, and what they do is they go looking for a source of food, and what they seem to have done is tap into the station's reactor and also the Orion ship as a source of food. So now that you know what to look for, when you scan the base's reactor core, you actually determine that it's infested with these life forms, and these are smaller versions of the creatures that are on the star, but
currently small.
Yeah, currently small. But so what has happened is they've basically gone off looking for food, and they've been drawn to the reactor, because obviously a reactor is essentially, it's a smaller version of a star. It's a fusion reactor. A warp core is essentially a star in miniature, and even the Orion ship with its crappy engineering, the engineering principles are the same. So that's what's causing the triolic radiation, is where these creatures eat. They essentially transmute energy into triolic radiation, which is like a waste product. So essentially they're shitting off triolic radiation.
What does the Prime Directive say about killing?
Don't, I think is the point.
We don't have to. We just shut the engines down.
Now, okay. So I'm going to give you. I'll give you a little bit. Okay. How do you want to approach this then?
So I'm thinking. Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead. I was just going to say, because I'll let you. I'll let you have come up with some options, because there's a few things you can do here.
We read that information over the channel, actually, or the comms particularly.
I'm assuming that you share all this information, so...
And with the Vigilant as well.
There are what in my warp core?
There's a what in my what now?
So I think options are, if we want them off, then we need to give them another food source. So you bake them
Excellent.
out.
Point of momentum
So
for
either
Karen.
do that, or...
But we've got to sour the milk as well.
Or, if this station is going to remain, then these things are going to constantly come. So you either continuously feed them and then try to convert their waste product into our energy source. But that means you have to harness triolic radiation and power the station with
Which
that.
has serious risks associated with it.
Unless you can safeguard it somehow. And I mean,
Do we know
a warp core has serious risks.
True.
You want to enslave the children?
Well, yes.
Not enslaved.
When you put it like that, yes.
Ensign jobs.
So what I would say is you are totally right. So obviously Naismith will probably, I mean, A, you don't know if you can destroy them. B, that would not be a good plan, because this is a previously unknown life form. And C, the best option probably, as you say, is to give them a different is to give them another food source. And
we don't know what could stop them. We can't put a shielding around the warp core that would prevent them getting into the warp core.
you could try.
Do we know what?
If only you had a disposable ship that you could send off into space with with a warp core on.
I'm still on board.
As you say, if we shut down
Please, go on.
shut down the warp core shut down the power systems on the station, overload the and head it towards back to the sun, and then we
Yeah.
shut the engines down on there.
Yeah.
Hopefully they would say, that's
So
gone."
before that happens, if you want the station to continuously be in use, you need to shield
Yeah, no, I was
it from
trial idea.
giving out
Yeah.
this,
So-
because they'll just come back.
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yes, exactly.
And-
So, what Osterhagen can do, therefore, is you can, between you can. I'm going to get you to make a cooperative roll. What you can do is you can try and work out a frequency. Yeah, because you're absolutely right. If you can basically rig up
We need to remodulate the
shield.
warp shields, yeah.
essentially to cloak the reactor from these creatures. And once because things like the like, so for example, smaller reactors like the shuttle reactor. So, you know, the only reactors big enough to attract them are the base, because it's got a fucking great big warp core in the middle of it, and the Orion ship, because again warp engines put out a lot of energy.
And presumably the Vigilant, because they have the same trouble.
The Vigilant may very well have the same issue. However, because of their distance away, you're not sure about that yet, because they've suffered EPS failures, you suspect they've probably got the same issue.
Yeah.
So what you can do is,
Just
the two of
got
you
those
can work
quadrants
together to come up with essentially a means of, you can just set up a frequency.
Yeah, shield modulation.
Shield modulation, thank you. Shield modulation to block it. And once you know what that frequency is, you can block the reactor core, and then they will ignore it, because they are drawn to a particular type of radiation.
But would that then get rid of the ones that we've already got in there?
So to do that, you're probably going to need to give them another food source to lure them out. And
give them a
as
reason
Mike
to
said,
go.
what you do is if you shut down the reactor, say, "Oh, look, here's a big shiny new energy source here." They'll go, "Ooh," and go for that. Then you can put your shields up. You can shield the core. Jobs are good.
Good. Cool.
The only one that I can see working for that is the Orion ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other possibility is that the range is too fast, so is it worth getting a shuttle out next to the ship? Then next to us, turn that on.
All the
Where are we going to get a shuttle
all the
from?
shuttles
The
are
shuttles are gone.
Shuttles fried.
Spitballing.
No, it's good. It's a good idea. The problem is that even if the shuttles were functioning, and to be fair, given if Prugam can get, if you two can get the shield functioning, so you can then restore the reactor, because once these have gone, you can then just essentially reboot the reactor, and then you'll get the base will come back online.
Yeah.
There is still damage, EPS things, but that's all kind of minor
That's
stuff.
fixable, yeah.
So then you can probably fix the shuttles, and as you say, you could rig a shuttle to probably, again, if you know what the frequency is that they're drawn to, you could actually probably just modify a shuttlecraft to emit that particular frequency, and that would probably be enough to lure them out.
What
But you only need a blast of energy to set it on its
Yeah.
course, and then once they're eating
Exactly.
at it, then it's
Yeah.
already heading. The
Correct.
momentum's already there.
Okay, we don't have a shuttle, but are there any other probes on the station?
Excellent. Have another point of
Yeah,
momentum.
there must be some.
Because because the science team have their own science probes. As you know, part of the vigilance job was to deliver probes, and they're to supplement what the base already has. So yes, indeed. So you can certainly rig a. You can basically modify a probe. In fact, you could probably use a photon torpedo.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, I was going to say,
But
I
you got
didn't know
torpedoes.
if we had torpedoes on here. That's
The
fine.
base will have torpedoes. So what you could do is
Only photon, not quantum.
stick
so
a
it can't be
photon
one.
power, stick a photon core in a probe, shoot that out, bang that off. That'll provide a massive burst of energy that will probably draw them out.
I'm feeling very
I like-
Spank season 3 at the moment.
I like how our solution to most problems involves a photon torpedo.
Because they work.
If in doubt, shoot it with a photon torpedo. That's what I say. Okay, so first thing we need to do is.
At the sun.
So the first thing we need to do is you two need to come. You two need to work together to get the frequency. So I think Osterhagen takes the lead. Can you assist?
Yes,
with,
what we're rolling.
So I would say insight and engineering.
Cool.
Or no, reason and engineering.
Cool.
15.
Osterhagen, yeah, insight and science. Difficulty is 3. You can spend some momentum if you want,
I've got
but
2 and an 11.
great. So that means you've got what are your focuses?
Focuses are philosophy,
Does my focus in warp or
xenobiology,
dynamics apply?
xenobiology.
That'll do.
Cool.
Perfect.
And
So
I
you
got-
get 2 successes,
I-
3,
I got-
4,
I got-
5 successes. So 2 points of momentum goes into the pot. What we at 5 now, right?
Yes.
Great. So, right. So you essentially now that you've got the data, it's actually more simple. It's not. I'll say simple.
I guess we just measure the radiation off the warp core, see what's missing from what you
Exactly. So you managed to, within about 10 minutes, you managed to go right. So you know what the frequency is that's going to block them.
We can't see them. They're invisible.
No, well, I mean, you can now that you know what to look for. Essentially, what you're looking at is you're looking at the absence of something.
Right.
So you can see the shape of them because the bits of the reactor that are missing, essentially where they're feeding, they leave a hole that. So as I say, they're a couple of meters in diameter. They don't really have a fixed shape. But the point is, now that you've got the frequency tied in, so now Miles comes up with this idea of the torpedo, which again, you don't need to roll for that because you've done the work. So essentially, you just have to modify a probe. And so, are you going to essentially shoot out a torpedo with a? Because you can essentially you can modify the torpedo to emit the optimum yield that will draw these creatures out.
We need to make it different to the sun. So if we pulse it, it's a distinct, rather than just
right. So they don't get
the sun.
No,
going to be
point.
a gigantic big ball of energy.
Yeah.
And we want something that they're drawn to, which is a bit more different to the actual sun. You
Yeah.
look at the sun and go, well, that's just hot, but I can see this ball.
And it's got to be something that's going to remain.
Candy.
It's got to be something. Yeah.
Yeah, something that's
Because
really.
And also, you want to make it close to what they're currently feeding on, because these are young versions of the bigger creatures. So
Kind of
the bigger
quinoa.
creatures haven't left the star because that's their food source. These smaller creatures obviously are inexperienced, newly born.
Let's give it some baby formula.
Yeah, well, essentially, yeah. There you go, baby formula. So you can do all of the. We don't need to roll all of this out. You've got a plan. You've got a very good plan.
I do have one question. Is the torpedo, after what you said, is the torpedo the duct tape or the WD-40?
Combination of both, I would say.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
Because what we're also going to do is, obviously, this station is staying here, so we're going to need to shield the warp core, and potentially, while doing that, the trial of radiation, is it photonic or is it particle based?
It's particle based.
No, just okay. If I can rig up.
Photonic particles. There we go.
Okay, cool. Then I could
Triolic
potentially, then I could
radiation.
potentially rig up something in the harmonic field that shields the warp core to, like, break down trial radiation in case one gets in again.
Yes, you can. You certainly can do exactly that. No, that's fine. Yeah.
Sorry.
The point is, the implication of this is that because obviously these creatures have never been encountered before, but obviously may be encountered again. So what these precautions will allow. So, for example, this will be distributed to all of the ships in the fleet. So if they have the same symptoms, they can then shield their reactors. They can, use this same technique of a photon burst to draw the creatures out.
It's called the Jenkins technique.
Yeah, the Jenkins.
We're not. Jenkins is not even getting a file on the paper I'm writing about this.
He wouldn't mind, but he's actually called Jennings.
Oh, Jennings!
That was my idea. You're Jenkins, are you? No!
I've heard Jennings is good. He's always been very quiet.
Just a minor thought here.
Yeah.
We could rig up we haven't got any shuttles with warp cores.
Okay, so just to be clear, the base has shuttles, but the EPS surge essentially blown out their systems.
Ooh.
They can be repaired, and the good news because basically you're less time critical now that you understand what's going on. So actually, yes, you can get the shuttles fixed, but it will take. Obviously, at the moment, most of the base's crew are in sickbay, although with the help of the EMH and with Pluto, so given that we've now gone 3 or 4 hours further along, actually most of the crew who've got minor injuries can be returned to duty. So you get more help in engineering. Basically, a couple of these, another half a dozen engineers will appear, and you can start giving them tasks.
Yeah, I was probably because
I'm just wondering whether we set up one of the shuttles, turn on the warp core without shielding, capture one, shield it, and we can use it to study
Is this so you can just add some more DNA samples?
Are you going to put it in your secret lab on the Vigilant?
Is that right? But obviously this is something that hasn't been...
How about, and I'm just spitballing here, we use the science station to study them in their natural habitat rather than capturing a baby.
Science station.
Yeah,
to observe.
rather than capturing a baby.
That is a very good point, because ultimately what this does mean is that it does mean that the base can continue to function and monitor what's going on, because now that you understand what's causing the trialic radiation, it means the station can operate safely, because you can, with your technique, which we'll probably call the Kerr technique.
There are a few Kerr things in the.
It's the Kerr Osterhagen technique. To be fair,
it's the David technique, but
the Kerr Osterhagen technique.
Osterhagen Kerr, it sounds better. I'll even let you get the first name.
Lucky my name wasn't Wayne. Yes.
But basically, you can. What this means is that the base can continue to function safely, and actually, again, we'll come back to the wider implications of what you've discovered. But in the short term, you can dispatch a team to go and rig up a shuttle. Mm-hmm. Again, it depends. How do you want to deliver this? Do you want to stick with the plan of using the probe, or do you want to use a shuttle to get the life forms away from the station? How do you want to do it?
But a shuttle will probably, one, it'll have a bigger warp core, so it's not like to drag them, and two, it will probably last longer.
I suppose the only other question is, if we send what looks like a torpedo at them, are they going to take that as a hostile act?
We don't even know.
I mean, to be fair, they probably wouldn't even notice. But it's a good point.
Probably a shuttle.
And it is in keeping. I mean, much as it shocks me to say this, talking about Osterhagen, it's very much in keeping with Starfleet's principles that you don't want to be shooting weapons at things that you don't understand.
But we weren't shooting a probe we weren't shooting a torpedo. We were shooting a probe that happened to have a warhead in it.
I mean, there's a very fine line there.
But for science. We were shooting a probe that had lunch in it.
Yeah.
So Miles, what would you? I mean, you're the officer in charge. What would you prefer to do?
Okay. What is it? Okay. How long would it take to sort the probe out?
So the probe you could probably do within about 30 minutes, because literally all you've got to do is modify. Okay, he'll say an hour. He'll do it in 30. But
how long would the shuttle do?
Probably take a couple of hours.
4 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. But it'll last longer.
It automatically doubles his estimates.
Do you have miracle work?
I don't.
You could just prepare both.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably would make sense. What you want to get this situation under control as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because at least you can shoot the torpedo to kind of start.
So I would recommend the torpedo is Plan A.
Yeah.
Or the probe is Plan A.
The torpedo, yes.
The shuttle is Plan B. So you get the shuttle, you get the probe modified.
The other consideration, it's a ball of burning fire. How long will it take the shuttle to burn up before it gets it? Is it a case that we get the shuttle as far as we can? As it burns up, the probe comes out to give us an extra couple of yards.
We don't need them to get that far at all. We just need them off of this.
We just need them out of
the station.
Yeah, you just need. So basically, while this is going on, I'm going to say that Kerr has probably done the probe himself, because you understand the principles.
Yes.
So with Osterhagen, so the pair of you are in the sort of launch bay, kind of with the hood up of this thing, tinkering around.
You're probably standing on the tricorder making comments.
And once that's done,
I'm taking samples from the warp core just in case.
So little with a spoon. So once that's done, you then get you then start rigging up so you essentially jury rig, favourite word. You jury rig shield emitters around the warp core. So what will have to happen eventually is you have to put in proper modifications, but at the moment these are like portable field generators, and again all they do is they emit at a certain frequency, which means that the reactor core will be blind, or the entities will be blind to it.
Yeah.
And again, as we said, all of the smaller power sources on board are too small for them to notice. It's only the bigger. So again, probably the Orion ship's probably about the smallest ship that they would notice. So the Vigilant obviously is bigger.
And we're creating audio documentation of what we're doing.
PowerPoint, yeah.
So the scientists, after we leave, can then, if they're going to do any work on their shit upstairs, they've got the documentation of what we've done, so they won't redo it.
They're going to be really pissed that it took you two to figure it out as well. That's really
and no time at all as well. They've been here for how long?
We've been here for months. What's that all about?
And Jenkins.
And Jenkins / Jennings.
We'll have to let the Vigilant know. Can they make similar preparations? Because as they're
Indeed.
getting closer.
Yes. So the good news is, again, because now that you, so basically you've still got communication. So again, the communications net is still down, but once this is done, then Prugam can then just reboot the system, and then that should bring everything back up again.
Yeah.
At least within, again,
At least in theory.
Do we need to shield the probes?
yeah, the station could blow up, I suppose, but there is that little complication that we talked about. We will cover that.
Do we need to shield the probes as well, or will they? Because it's not a case that they'll be infected.
Oh, you mean the ones that are in orbit around the... No, actually, because again, their power source is just too small. The entities just won't notice them.
The only reason our probe is going to get seen is because we've strapped a proton.
Because you basically stuck a giant power source in it and boosted it right up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pretty much done a transformer on it.
Yeah. So fine. So assuming this, is there anything else anyone wants to do before we carry on with that? So you give the nod, Miles, and launch the probe. And as you're scanning, you're restricted to using the basis sensors because of the power shunt has broken your link with the satellites. However, you've got enough. You've got enough resolution to see, as predicted, that you launch the probe.
Only 4K.
And the probe essentially starts chucking out energy. So you send it off 500,000 kilometres away from the star, and at the appointed time you give the order, the thing lights up, and sure enough, you shut the reactor down. So on the base, lights go red, typical, but it goes to battery power.
Yeah.
So it's most disconcerting because you hit the air processors kind of shut, go quiet, and you've still got gravity, but everything else goes boom.
Oh yeah, any of your patients going to die if they're not, the biomed not working.
Voices go like 20
EMH goes, please stay, and he just disappears in that sentence.
You just made a cut.
Yeah. And there's a tense minute or two, but sure enough, then you see that the entities begin to...
Making sure the radiation stops.
Yeah, you see the entities begin to leave, and sure enough, within minutes, your scan of the core is that it's clear. So you instigate the force field, and you do a system reboot. Get you to make a little roll just to make things interesting.
See if there's any complications.
So,
What's my roll?
You're going to roll.
620.
I'm going to go with reason and engineering.
Reason engineering, cool.
Because it's a routine process.
Difficulty?
Difficulty is only a 2.
2.
And you've got
Warp
focus
field
is warp
dynamics.
field dynamics is
Yeah.
what you need. So
Do we
it's applicable.
just want to make sure I get this perfect?
Well, I can advise.
You've got plenty of momentum.
I've literally got a value that will
Jenkins.
definitely apply.
Jenkins
Maybe
will give
buy some. Why don't you buy some? You've got plenty of momentum. You could always
Yeah.
spend some of that.
Yeah.
Jenkins will give you a hand.
You could use momentum.
Yeah, get Jenkins
stop
to help.
Jenkins from rolling.
Half momentum just in case.
That's the anti-Jenkins momentum.
6 natural 20. 5.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5.
Okay, perfect. So,
Now he's useful.
right, great. So you sort of run through the checklist
Yeah.
in your head.
He's having coffee.
No helping.
Swap. Just thank you.
So what you do first of all is you bring up the
The
shield,
standing
the
field,
field
yeah.
emitters. The core starts up, and sure enough, through it, engineering sort of lights up, and around the station, the woo, things come back on again, and you monitor for a couple of minutes, but the entities have not returned. Now you can, as the systems begin to come back on, and it's going to take 10 or 15 minutes while everything cascades back on, and the sensors begin to come back on, and you can detect that the entities have they've kind of started consuming the probe core, and there's no sign of them returning, and you do another scan of the core and it's clear.
Okay.
You forgot to shut the Orion ship.
Yeah.
We haven't because I'm still there.
To be fair, yeah, Kalisha's on the ship and she hasn't started it up anyway, so actually...
Oh, okay.
What I was going to say was.
But I mean, again, I'm assuming you've probably done the same. I mean, it's up to you really how you want to handle it, but...
I've given you a very long step-by-step. This is how you do it.
Okay.
Simple.
The good news is there's only a couple of these entities in that core because it's much smaller.
Yeah.
So again, you can you can go follow his procedure and...
Or you could just leave them there.
She's going to get the base. She's going to get the base to transport her off.
Yeah.
But just before she does,
Yeah.
she's going to wipe the system of data.
Excellent. Well done. Well done.
The
Good
best way
man.
she knows how, and she's going to track
Shoot it with a disruptor.
So, and she's going to say, sorry, there was nothing I could do. The ship had been lost.
That's great.
It was like that when I got here.
No, perfect. That's right. No, perfect. I'm glad.
So yeah, you're giving these precise instructions, which is like, and she's setting a destructor.
And then you just hear, what was that?
That's
nothing.
It seems to have worked.
Was that 3 disruptor shots?
It might have been.
You only counted 3.
Yes, 3.
Right. So yeah,
That's one way of doing it.
and she gets beamed back over. So again, probably with some relief, you get beamed back over.
That's up for smoking.
just as the Orion's ship goes boom. So the good news is you return to the station and it's actually looks much more as it did when you arrived. So actually in the transport room, lights are on. There is a slightly dishevelled looking member of the base crew who's been ordered to transport you back.
Yep.
And
Contraband.
as you're led to the Commander Johansson has been stabilised in sick bay. Commander Johansson has been stabilised, but he's still very ill, but he's been stabilised.
Yep.
And now you've actually got there's like a medical orderly from the base sick bay team has sort of taken over.
Oh, now you turn up. Now at the end.
My shift didn't start.
Yeah, that's right. I don't get paid overtime, mate. I'm not don't start too late. And so he will recover, but it will take time. So
At least I'm in charge.
yeah, you are essentially. Yeah, you're still in charge. A quick
Well, I guess the hunters are going to do it. I think it's time for you to go. Thank you for your help. It's time for you to go.
So as basically the Vigilant returns a couple of hours later, and sure enough, then you two liaise with Vigilant, and I guess you probably want to beam back.
Oh
over
yeah,
as
no,
quick
I'm
as possible.
100% waiting just on the transport pad site with
So
my toolkit.
yeah, a couple of hours go by, and you basically do the same trick. You essentially manage to rig up the. And you find there's only a couple of these smaller entities in the engine core, but so they're easy
So this
to.
time we see him fire 2 probes because obviously Jenkins wasn't here.
Has anyone seen Jenkins? No. And so you managed to restore. Again, the vigilance damage is pretty minimal. Mostly, again, EPS conduits and trilateral radiation injuries, but that can be treated now that again the source of the radiation has been controlled. And so Miles will take control of the base just until Johansson is back up and running. So Haranok eventually will come back aboard. So a day or so passes and things are under control. So the science team have begun to monitor these life forms given the new information, and again the station is now functioning. Repairs are underway. Prugam has, you've probably got, I don't know, Jenkins is probably the senior bloody engineer on board actually.
That's a worrying thought.
Yeah, exactly. But again, you can
Yeah.
assist him in, the Vigilant will stay on station just while things are put back together, at least basically.
I'm using my engineering team who are
Exactly.
competent.
Promoted him, they got this promotion with Jenkins.
And what is great is that obviously this is actually a fairly big feather in your caps, because this is a first contact situation with a new life form that no one has encountered before.
But somebody decided to shoot into the sun with a torpedo. Just one point.
We didn't shoot anything.
Don't forget, he came from tactical, so that's his first reaction is always to shoot.
I found a Jenkins in cleaning. Oh no, he's been promoted to engineering.
What's that, Jennings? Who? And so basically, Captain Haranok is first of all very pleased with all of you, and again because you've dealt with it in the proper manner. That's going to go down well on your record. So everybody will get a commendation. I will come up with some sort of commendation. There's probably a first contact commendation, but the point is
Just an email as well now.
no. The point is that this is actually a big achievement for you, and certainly as a crew, because first contacts are common, but this sort of life form, again, this was this science team hadn't discovered this. And they probably would have got there eventually, but who knows
we
what
were
would have
there for a
happened
few
in the
hours
meantime.
and discovered.
And the good thing is they can now accurately monitor the breakdown of the star, and that makes the whole thing a lot safer and a lot more controlled. And as Josh said, they can actually carry out proper observations of this life form's life cycle, and it's big information. And good on you.
Question.
Yeah.
Now's
the time for questions. If you have any questions, fire away.
The star is dying, basically, isn't it?
Yes, it will eventually die.
Yeah, because these things are.
No, these things. So the star is already on its way out.
What I'm trying to get at is we're great going. Oh, great, new first contact. Whatever. But hang on a minute. Are they eating the star? Because if they are they then a threat to other stars?
So
maybe they feast on dying stars.
Exactly. Yeah. So what actually is happening is that there is a particular type of when the star goes into this part of its life cycle, there's a particular energy type that these creatures are drawn to. So although they and again, when we say that that they've accelerated the demise of it, I mean you're still talking
zillions of years.
Well, you're still talking big time. You're not talking 2 years. You're talking a long time. The reason that this star was of interest was purely because the Starfleet has very good understanding of stellar phenomena, and so the process that this was going through was unusual, and that's what brought this whole thing about. So they didn't cause the star to start dying. The star was on its stars have a life cycle, but because they feast on the waste products that, as Karen said, are kind of created at a certain point in its life cycle, then they've accelerated the process, but they didn't cause it.
So
and presumably they will move on to another dying star at some point.
I'm going to present a theory to the science crew to investigate. Two theories. The first theory is these things spontaneously evolve when a star gets to a point
good.
in which it goes from nova to supernova.
Yeah.
The other possibility is these are transient beings that appear in system when a star dies. First question for that is, how do they do that? Are they need a power source to survive?
Yeah.
Without food, are they just floating in the ether? So that's the two theories.
So it could be that part of that for them to spawn.
The youngins were sent out, weren't they?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
So it could be
they're also
that
extra dimensional things. So
it's more likely to have a spontaneous.
Can we just take a moment here just to say how cool it is, and we're sitting having this conversation, doing a role playing game. You're not out there killing goblins in dungeons. You're talking about this sort of imaginary life form, and how cool is that? So Modiphius, well played.
With regards to the slaying goblins part, who is?
There's nothing wrong with slaying goblins.
No. Who is the high-ranking Klingon in the Shackleton expanse?
There isn't one at the moment. There's
no. There must be someone
a guy on the
that
base. His name escapes me.
Yeah. Okay. So
there's a general. So it's not because obviously Captain Akul. Although he was AC, he's not the senior. There's a general on the starbase.
Okay, no. Because what I want to do is when
I wasn't there for that game. Did you just refer to Klingons as goblins, or
no? I'm not referring to the Klingons as goblins.
That's like, wait,
how very dare you!
I'm referring to the Orions as goblins. When the Orions beam up into the ship and go, what the fuck, and register a complaint, my first reaction as commanding officer is going to be, unfortunately, this is a Klingon matter, you need to take it up with the This is not a Federation matter, it's a Klingon matter.
Okay, so I was going to address that situation. I'm glad you mentioned that.
And we should
bear with me a second.
Then we should make sure the bar is properly furnished.
Is that about there? Bedded into the control panel?
So the first thing. So obviously when the Orions go back to their ship, she's not best pleased by the fact that there's been some damage done to her computer system. However, there are a few things to bear in mind in this situation. So the first thing is that emergency powers effectively would be in operation because this was a crisis situation. So first thing is you can say to them, well, tough shit, you were in, unfortunately, this situation happened and we deal with it as best we can.
We were working on the hypothesis that you were attempting to seduce the captain of the...
Surprisingly, she won't be that offended by that notion because, might not
She's done what she was trying to do.
Yeah.
However, the situation is easily fixed, and so Commander Johansson, once he recovers his situation. No. Well, he might do, but what he actually does is he simply sets up a trade agreement as was what you wanted in the first
Trade
place.
agreements, they're that simple, are they?
Pretty much, and to be honest, that's what she was after.
Is that
all
what
along.
they're going to call it?
That is exactly what she was after all along. Was just setting up a trade agreement.
Come to my quarters and we'll set up a trading.
Let's set up a trade.
Well, I'm
agreement.
tempted to go to you and kind of go, this is the type of pheromone she has that she gives off when seducing men. Is there any way you can kind of just manufacture a
Inhibitor.
inhibitor and inject it into
Just in case he goes full Brits on around.
There's a couple of other interesting pieces of fallout from this as well. So first of all, there's a new Starfleet protocol is brought into effect, which we're going to call the Osterhagen Care Protocol, which
Commonly known as the
actually
Osterhagen.
Coming as a car protocol because it's quicker.
right.
Or the okay
General
protocol.
Kargan is the
But
senior
everyone uses
Klingon
the slang, they
officer.
call it the Jenkins.
Okay.
No, and then Jenkins becomes.
Yeah, so
the
General
term for
General
cooking up.
Kargan is the
Like
name
Army
of the senior Klingon officer on the in the Shackleton Expanse. General Kargan. He's senior officer on Narendra Station, so he's technically the sector commander.
Because the other one's missing in action.
So first thing is you get to put a new protocol into Starfleet regulations. So you kind of write up you presumably present a joint paper on this. And eventually, when it gets to the Federation Science Council,
They changed the name again for the
you get some notoriety because of your input. The pair of you, because you're doing it together. Plume, you actually also get invited to attend a symposium on the EMH because you're the first senior medical officer to actually see the EMH in actual operation.
Yep.
Of course, we have to forget that the Voyager at this point has been lost. So, of course, as far as they know, you're the first actual serving medical officer who's seen an EMH function in an actual crisis. Mm-hmm. So, a bit of notoriety for you, and essentially, you get a standing offer to go, whenever it's convenient, whenever you can, to basically go and speak at a scientific or technical conference. Mm-hmm. And they'll invite you to submit a report. Any recommendations you can make, which again, Plume presumably will probably have plenty to say on the subject, but again, I think it's fair to say was relatively impressed with what happened.
Mm-hmm. At the conference, will there be an all-you-can-eat buffet?
Of course.
Actually, what
They've got replicators, man. You can just every buffet's an all-you-can-eat buffet.
At the conference, it isn't like you presenting a paper. It's you debating against an EMA.
So you two get, everybody gets a commendation, which I will write up. I'll come up with a name for it, but you get some sort of scientific commendation, and again, crisis management from the whole team is noted, and again, this is a significant development. I don't want to underestimate it. It's a significant development for Starfleet in this area, because again, this is probably the first truly alien first contact that's been made in the Shackleton Expanse. So there's no doubt, again, and that this means also that any Starfleet vessels will now be looking for this type of.
It'll be in my book, David Osterhagen, Brilliant Eye, Crisis Management.
Naismith, again, you get a nice little note in your jacket. Because you basically took command of the base. You took command of the base for sort of 36 hours whilst Johansson was out of action. So again,
and your book entitled 1001 Ways to Use a Photon.
How to cook
in a first contact situation.
How to cook with a photon.
That's right. Yeah, you could bring out a recipe book there. And again,
Cooking on antimatter.
So Kaz also, commendation goes in your record because again,
my book's coming out and it's called.
So that about wraps that one up, guys. Has anyone got anything else they want to add, or I will put together something for you to think about in terms of milestones, because again, I know we sort of skipped over milestones, but again, this was a good result, and you guys handled it really well, and got to the right outcome, and didn't kill too many people. it's really good. So that's really good effort. And
Only one of us discharged their weapons.
yeah,
Two of us discharged their weapons.
I didn't shoot anything.
You shot a fucking big torpedo.
I didn't shoot it. I wanted someone to.
Oh yes.
even just as
It's
one last little
the
caveat
trigger.
as well. Even Johansson and Haranok have managed to bury the hatchet a little bit, because obviously with the Vigilant stayed on station whilst things were being recovered, and Haranok spent some time, and actually Johansson had to essentially go cap in hand a little bit, because he's Haranok's team, i.e. you guys, have
I've
saved
already
him and his crew pretty much.
To aid that even more, I've already done the research, and they're both the same blood type. So a small blood transfusion between the two wasn't necessary, but makes Haranok more amenable to his old ally. The fact
So-
that give me blood.
But well, that's right. So there are even rumours that they had a bit of a drunken session before the Vigilant left. Haranok definitely had a bit of a hangover the next morning, and so that's good. So that's given you again another ally in this area, and so
Captain the Orion involved.
yeah, the Orion's very happy. They may be, but the Orion's very happy because she got what she wanted. She got her trade route.
Has she noticed the missing stem bolts?
You finished.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Again, we've actually again. I wanted to finish tonight, but to be fair, you've covered everything. You've wrapped it up nicely. Good job, everyone. But we got a bit of time, so
Right. I'm just going to say you're up. If I pick up here,
please go ahead. Yeah.
It's just a little bit. Right. Basically, you spend a week at the station, clearing up and getting everything set up before you depart. Upon your departure, you receive new orders from Starfleet around the station. And basically, you've been given patrol orders. It would appear there's been a pirate vessel that's been harassing shipping in the area, and they want you to go out and patrol and, if possible, find, locate, and neutralise it.
Are you sure it's not the one that's outside?
It's not,
Hang on a minute, it's
Already
right there.
Check that out.
and that's basically your orders.
Okay.
Now,
So next session, Mike's running the game, so we'll pick up.
Whereabouts in the sector are we?
it's a couple of sectors over, but they want you to go over there and
Yep.
look around and see what you can.
Fly the flag.
Is that a one
Yeah.
game or
It'll probably be a one.
Only because we'll not be here the week after.
but the week after? If you're not here,
Yeah.
I can run Klingon Part 2.
Yeah, I mean,
I may not be here either. That's
things will be clearer. As I said at the moment, the plan is I will be going to the DS9 thing, but it just really depends because as you know, with families and things, who knows what might crop up. But the plan is certainly to go to the DS9
Well, I'm
thing.
definitely going.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. No, it's cool. But anyway, good job, guys. I will send out an email about milestones and things because again, we should really think about it. I know we keep talking about it, but you've done very well tonight. And as I say, this was all wrapped up nicely, and I was very impressed. So well done, everyone.
You've all done very well.
You've all done very well. And I'm sure we will probably revisit this station again at some point.
Okay, to bar.
Anyone got anything else they would like to add before I turn the recording off?
it's your long one.
Can we get the bar officially recognised as a thing we're allowed on the ship?
I'm
Since
sure
you-
that
since
will
you've
be
ordered
I
such
don't know,
a-
I like it being a little bit sort of. Everyone knows about it, but it's not official.
a little bit covert, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd rather have it that. Because the moment it becomes official, then everybody else knows about it. Then it's
Everyone knows about it anyway. The only reason we found out
Yeah,
about
but-
it is because I've had someone replicating chess.
When everyone starts going there, like, well, I remember it was cool.
Did the Orions have any decent liquor that we could stock the bar with?
Hell yes.
So we made a bit of
They
it. So
did.
we made up because
Oh,
we
absolutely.
A
I'm
little bit of
sure.
a
I'm
trade
sure
went
that
on.
yes. I'm sure
Oh,
that
you-
you
you're
managed to
just-
arrange to have something beamed off the ship because you know Orion's
That's
work good
that's
liquor.
the stuff they don't know about.
So we had some stem bolts to trade to them.
Can I interest you in some stem? Because I'm in the market for stem bolts. Really, how interesting.
Never would have guessed.
So you just trade them back for.
You've already filed the serial numbers of these.
That is really funny. No, great job. And a couple of things. Just interested. Just a little bit of other information. So I thought it was very, very cool. The Kalish thing was great because that wasn't part of the, obviously wasn't part of the scenario, but actually that worked out really well in the end, I think, and tying in like the whole SensorNet and all that was all good stuff. That was stuff that wasn't written, but I like that idea, and so again, I have no problem with you going off and doing your thing.
It didn't feel forced; it felt quite natural. The fact that you're going.
Exactly, and I'd like to again. I like to try and let you do those things, and as it turned out, it was probably a really good move because again, it allowed Kalish to make some discoveries and also to have a bit of an advantage, and the communications net and all that works really well.
And from a TV point of view, it adds another location, and so you can always cut away and it just adds.
No, I like exactly right.
If you're writing a screenplay,
I totally agree that visual it's good to have a visual in mind, and again, I really like that. That worked for me really well. So, as I say, I know it wasn't written, but I'm all in favour of that kind of improvisation. So
you're getting hot and everybody's unzipping a top.
Steam release.
Yeah. So did you say? I'm gonna. Anyone, one last chance. Anyone got anything to say before I turn this off? Okay. Well, so we'll see you next time, everyone. Thank you for listening.